find out in a minute. Okay, I'm good. All right. And I'll take this and move this to the top, just in case I may need it. All right, so we're at part 19. I understand the whole book, part 19. All right, just a reminder, when we say in the whole book, we're really dealing with just the eschatology portion of it, end-time prophecies, going from one side to the other side to show how they are progressing. The focus on today's lesson will be on test and know yourself, or testing and knowing yourself. Everyone knows the difference between test and testing, know and knowing, right? Right, so we're going to talk about that today, defining some words to get a better understanding, establishing your mind, make ready your fruit, and know your enemy. All right, so that's what's going to be about today. And then next 2, maybe next 3 weeks, we're going to be in the book of Revelations. So I want to finish this portion up so we can really take some time and talk about the book of Revelations and see how the book of Revelations is kind of set up like the 10 Commandments. We'll see it from that perspective. All right. So before we get started, we got the rules. Please keep your mic muted except when asking or answering a question. Use the mic to speak. There's a feature in the room where you can raise your hand if you have a question. All questions must be on the topic. You have 60 seconds to ask or answer a question. If you pass your 60-second window, your mic will be muted for you. These rules are due to time and recordings of the lessons. These are live teachings. We must give the Moreh enough time to complete the lesson. All right. All right, so right off the bat, James 1:15 says, "Then when lust has conceived, it brings forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, brings forth death." So, lust. Tell me about lust. And the type of lust I'm talking about that has conceived and it will bring forth sin, that type of lust. Not the term lust and desire are the same words. So there are some positive desires, there are some good desires, and then there are some bad desires or some things that are considered lust. We're just waiting. He was in the daze. Oh, I understand. Uh-huh.
So lust, how does it form sin? I would say that if you're lusting after something that is not set apart, or if it's not deemed good for you, or the purpose of the Father.
Okay. Anyone else? Why you got his attention? I understand.
Shalom.
Mm-hmm.
I would also kind of land back on that and say that lusting can create idols.
Mm-hmm.
It can put you in a position where this is all that you desire, this is all you want. So your entire focus just goes straight to that. And of course, that will take you away from, the Most High, and pretty much everything else in your life.
Okay.
It can become obsessive.
Okay.
Obsessive.
So what can be? Go ahead. Okay. What can be things that's considered lust? What are lustful things?
I'm still gonna go back to the first question, Aki.
Sure.
Okay, so I'll read out 1 John chapter 2, verse 16.
Mm-hmm.
For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Anyone else? I need to know some things. We know we can say our eyes, we can say all this good stuff, but what things? Unless everyone is good.
Slika more.
Go ahead.
Hold on.
I guess money could be one. Drugs and alcohol could be another. Fornication, adultery, all of those things you can lust after that stuff, and then that all becomes a sin because you're putting all of those things before you're putting the Father, and it's
Okay.
not edifying to the Father.
Okay. You had something, Namana?
Ken Moreh, your own selfish desires, what you want.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we got money. We've got uh, your things that you want, despite if it's not good for you, such as you said alcohol, things like that, right? You said Joshua has one. Okay, Josh, what you have? Josh, you good? Oh, okay. All right. So another thing you can think about. Well, we'll find out in just a minute. All right. So conceived. Right? So it says, then when lust has conceived. What do you mean when lust has conceived?
When you carried it out.
They couldn't hear anything. I don't know if y'all just talking amongst each other. I wasn't sure. Mm-hmm.
It's when it grows. It's within you. You said it, it became.
Okay. All right. So let's look. All right. So for lust, right? Themias, for it's a desire, from thymus down to root word thio, which denotes a violent movement. It says from the sense to boil up, come to smoke, and then to sacrifice. Thymus means what is moved or moves, i.e. vital force, right? Vital force. And it may then denote such varied things as desire, impulse, spirit, anger, sensibility, disposition, and thought. Okay? So this is lust. Lust is in the force of it. Okay? So everyone's familiar with the force of how this works, right? You got the negatives from physical to mental to spiritual. Everyone understands that, right? All right. And then by that, depending how much you allow it to conceive in you, can determine even how it can open up spirits into this. Okay? And then you start opening up spirits, then this thing becomes even worse. Now you got to figure out how to get rid of it, right? This thing became so strong, it became a place in your spirit where you don't want it to go. Okay. Next one is for the word conceive, right? Means to gather, to seize, to trap, to capture. Okay? So it will say, as you all said earlier, I'll give you the, we'll see it later on, I'll give you earlier, even adds down to producing something, right? To conceive or to produce something. All right? But you can imagine this lust being seized or captures you, and then that brings forth this sin. And then that sin, when it is finished, what does it do? Bring forth death or separation. All right? All right, so I think we're working pretty good here. So we'll keep going. So it says, verse 16 says, do not err, my beloved brethren. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Of his own will begat he with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creation. What does it mean? A kind of first fruits. Now, the answer is going to be very easy. First is you're defining first fruit. We did that last week, so tell me how that works. What is first fruit? From last week's lesson, first fruit? Wow. All right. You guys didn't write nothing down. We going back to church. Oh, okay. First fruits. Think about it. Don't worry. He's gonna come at the mic at some point when he thinks y'all ready.
The first fruit is what the Father has given within us. He has said that it should be patient, it should be loving, it should be peace, it should be the Ruach Hokodash, all of those that He has said we should be carrying within us to be His people.
Okay. Okay. All right. So my encouragement
I
will be to
see
go
how
back and
I-
learn
I-
about first fruits, but I will add this to the equation. First fruits, when you think about when you give the Father his first fruit, what are you giving the Father when you give the Father your first fruit?
see Kamari the best. The spirit is like the gift to grow, to mature, for peace, gentleness, mercy, and the willingness to overcome, like a sinless nature, to overcome Shaitan. And this will all lead to eternal life.
Okay.
When you're giving the Father your first fruit, you're giving him your best.
Okay.
Yes, your absolute best, like the best of what you have, like the best of your crop. Everything is the best.
Okay. But what I want you to understand also is not only is it your first, but it's the first of what?
The first of what you produce, the
Fruit.
first of yourself, the first of you, the first of what you produce, the first of
All right.
what your maturity.
Oh, okay. Kanisha, you had an answer. You had something you want to share?
Yeah, I missed last week's lesson, but according to like previous videos on YouTube, my understanding is when you give your first, is it a was it Shabbat? And when you give your first, that means if you bless the first, then everything else would be blessed. So it kind of correlates with the Messiah being the first, kind of like that same example of how the Messiah he was the first fruit. Therefore, um, so the rest will be blessed. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So
He
I want us
consider Israel to be his first fruit.
right. We know Israel's first fruit, but we got to understand what first fruit is versus as in a noun form, Israel is the first fruit. But in a verb, what is first fruit? So if I'm saying, for an example, I'm giving the Father, sure, we're giving him the best, but it's the first thing that comes up of everything, right? So then you're asking the Father, hey, bless this, and then by him blessing your first fruit, that means your whole year, everything else will be blessed. Everyone's familiar with that, right? Like crops, right? All right, so, but it says here that we should be a kind of first fruit. So now we're taking from agricultural to us being a kind of first fruit. Now, if we understand last week's lesson dealing with the Ruach and we're kind of this first fruit, then that means we don't have the full fruit yet or the fullness of the Father's Spirit, which we talked about last week and some things like that. So my point is, though, since we're kind of it, he wants to see how much of a good steward we are with just the little bit that we have. The little bit that we have, the kind of first fruit that we have, let me see if you're a good steward with it. If you're not, then how do you make yourself ready for the remaining of it or the full blessing of the remaining, if you will, crops as is considered here for right now? Okay. Question becomes, what can you glean from a grape or grapes? Tell me a little bit about grapes.
We are grapes. We're considered grapes, like us.
Okay, but what can we
People,
glean from it? We're called grapes, but what can we glean from it?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind that you can glean from it from me is wine.
Okay, so you're saying you get wine out of grapes, okay?
Right.
So we're starting natural, all right? So you're saying physically I can get some grape juice, first fruits, I can get some wine. Okay, great. Question becomes, what else can you glean from a grape? You had something?
You have to like pick them at the right time, or something too small and too sour, or if it's too late, it'll shrivel up and become a raisin.
Okay, okay. All right, so we're coming from an agricultural firm first. Let's look at some things. Leviticus 19:10 says, and you shall not glean your vineyard, neither shall you gather every grape of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and stranger. I am Yahuah your Elohim. Right? Very simple. Talking about the farmers, they should leave some for the corners for the poor. Everyone's familiar with that, right? Yahuah or Jeremiah 29 says, in those days they shall say no more, the fathers have eaten a sour grape, and the children's teeth are set on edge. But everyone shall die for his own iniquity. Every man that eats the sour grape, his teeth shall be set on edge. Okay, so now we're talking about a sour grape, but is it really talking about eating a sour grape? No? Everyone's with me? All right, we'll keep going. Genesis 49:11, or Bereshit 49:11 says, binding his fowl unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. Okay, what is this talking about?
talking about Yahuah when he comes back, not everybody gonna be saved.
Okay, so we know a verse before it talks about the scepter, right? Not depart from the tribe of Yehudah. But then you ask yourself, and we'll talk about it maybe in the future, but it says, bind his fowl unto the vine. Who's the vine?
Yahuah.
Then who's the fowl? What? Who's the fowl? You saying you're the fowl? Okay. And then it says, and his ass is colt unto the choice vine. You the ass too? Huh? I want to make sure I got this understanding correctly. No, we changing our mind? Y'all don't want to be fowls and donkeys? Okay. I'm sure they can't hear you. Yeah.
It reminds of the scripture in Bereshit.
Uh-huh.
I mean,
Yeah, that's where we at. Bereshit. Uh-huh.
In Brick Hadasham,
Uh-huh.
where he was on the coat and the donkey that he sent the men out to gather to bring back to him.
Okay.
It reminds me of that
Okay.
scripture.
All right, so it reminds you of the scripture, the ass of the colt on the donkey, right?
Where he had told him to go out.
Right, in John and Zechariah. You're right, I got you. All right, so I want you to see that there's something that you might want to understand about grapes, vines, fruit. This is where I'm getting at. Now, are we going to go over that today? Absolutely not. I'm just curious to see where you guys are. Amos 9:13 says, behold, the days come, saith Yahuah, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes, him that sows seed, and the mountain shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. Right? Matthew 7:16 says, you shall know them by their fruit. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Do you think the Mashiach was saying this for a higher understanding or a deeper meaning? Why is he talking about grapes of thorns, and why is he talking about figs of thistles? Is there something behind that? Revelation 14:18, and another Malach came out from the altar, which had power over fire, and cried with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle, and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. Is he talking about the farmers? And, oh, no, talking about people? All right, so just keep this in mind. But fruit, specifically grapes and figs, are linked to end time prophecy. They will be explored in the future when we show agricultural terms and items that has a bigger meaning, right? But if you guys want to start early, by all means, start looking up these definition of words for grapes and figs and why they're used a lot agriculturally in prophecy and things like that. All right. We'll keep going. So Isaiah 5:1 says, Now I will sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. My well-beloved has a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. And he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine and built a tower in the midst of it and also made a winepress therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. Question is, what is wild grapes?
Lawlessness.
Okay.
I would say that
Would that be the leaven, Moreh? Like when those that are coming with leaven, that's why I can explain that.
Okay.
I would say a wild grape is one that grows on the ground, or the vine runs on the ground, and it's not, I don't want to say tamed or got a pole where it runs up the pole. So it's just running free, doing whatever it wants to do.
Okay. All right. So now, a couple of things. We won't talk about it now, but I want you to think about the farmer being the father and the choicest vine being Mashiach. And he built a tower. In the midst of it there, he built a wine press. What's going to happen at a wine press? You look that up in the future. And he looked, and there should bring forth grapes, and brought forth wild grapes. And we say, hey, let's define wild grape. Because we're thinking wild grape from an English perspective, right? So wild grape is a wild grape, right? All right, so let's define wild grape. The word there for wild grape is beushim. Beushim means stinking, foul, or worthless thing, wild grape. Is this a different grape y'all familiar with? Have you all smelled a funky grape? No? Never smelled a stinky grape? I've seen some rotten grapes. Huh? Okay. All right. So keep in mind, this is considered a wild grape. All right, so let's look. So it says, Thus saith Yahuah, it is this you shall know that I am Yahuah. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in my hand upon the waters which are in the rivers, and they shall be turned into blood. And the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall beushim, right? It shall stink. And the Mitzrayim, or the Mitzrites, or the Egyptians, shall load to drink of the water of the river. 16:23 says, And he said unto them, This which Yahuah has said, tomorrow is the rest of the Chodesh Shabbat, the set apart Shabbat, unto Yahuah. Bake which you shall bake, and seethe that which you shall seethe, and that which remains over lay up for you to be kept until the morning. And they laid it up till the morning, and Mushabeh did not stink, neither was there any worms therein. Same word. Keep this in mind. We'll keep going. 1 Samuel says, when Achish asked, Where have you made a raid today, David? Would say, against the Negev of Yehuda, or against the Negev of Yarham Ali, or against Negev of Chani. He says, and David would leave neither man nor woman alive to bring news to Gath, thinking lest they should tell about us and say, so David has gone. Such was his custom all the while he lived in the country of the Philistines, of Philistine. And Achish trusted David, thinking he has made himself an utter stench to his people, Yashrael or Yisrael. Therefore, he shall always be my servant. Okay? You can make yourself a wild grape or a stench, right? So there are different types of grapes: wild grape, sour grape, first fruits, i.e. in the grape. There are 3 types. Your question is, what type of fruit or grape are you? What determines what fruit or grape are you?
Your actions, keeping Torah.
Okay, your actions, keeping Torah. Okay, anyone else? So if I'm understanding correctly, since you all know what type of grape you guys are, you're telling me everyone up in here is the first fruit, that best grape possible. Okay, so you guys are saying I might be in the sour grape section? I'm not talking about wild grape. Wild grape and sour grape are not the same. Huh? Sour grape is not fully. So you got a wild grape, you have a sour grape, you have a first fruit grape. My point to you is to figure out what grape are you. Now, I'm not the one that can tell you what that is. You guys know yourselves, right? But my point is that as we've been going through these lessons and we've been checking ourselves and seeing where we are, it should determine where you are, right? So I can tell you when I see faces and they go down, they don't want to answer nothing. I already know which. Remember we talked about last time the tree. I said, what tree are you over here? Yeah, like, Okay, all right. Someone had a question? Oh.
Okay, so if it's because someone said earlier it's the fruit of the spirit and things like that. So if it's not that, then what do we have to? I mean, I know keeping Torah and believing in Hamashiach, putting those two together, but what else would we, I guess, live up to? Because earlier someone said the fruit of the spirit, and you really didn't confirm if that was the correct answer. I'm not sure what would be, what standard would we go by?
All right, so the fruit of the spirit is definitely the best fruit on the planet. The problem is not the spirit. The problem is your fruit. Is your fruit matching the spirit's fruit? Those fruits, you can't have the Father's fruit that is pure, righteous, good. It's the first fruit that he's given you a gift. The first gift or the first fruit is that spirit, and you're operating like a wild grape or a wild fruit. Those two will be bumping heads all day. So when you check the spirit, what I'm specifically talking about is your spirit, not the Father's spirit. That's good. So when you compare all the stuff from the Torah, the commandments, the instructions, how to treat one another, how we do things, is that, because remember he said we know them by their fruits, right? So if we know them by their fruits, then the only way I really know if you're operating in the right fruit is by your actions. So that's the fruit I'm saying is walk those fruits out and see if you align yourself to any of these things. Some of them we may say, yeah, I do really good with the fruit of the Spirit. I do have, I like to give, or I like to be a blessing, or I am humble, or I am this, and then you find yourself, there's other fruits that you're having to struggle with. Those things that you're having to struggle with, those things you need to fix. Okay?
So that's why it says, judge the spirit by the spirit as well.
Right, Right. The only way you can judge them is by the Spirit, specifically the fruit of the Spirit. And then it says, even with the fruit of the Spirit, then you got to use something else that's spiritual, i.e. the law is spiritual, and it's good, and it's righteous, right? So again, these are all of our tools he has given us to prepare ourselves for when he comes. Okay.
Moreh, I had a quick question.
Sure.
Back from that scripture when it says, my beloved, just for future study, I just was wondering who is who's speaking, who's the woman, who's the beloved, and whose vineyard did wild grapes, and does it have anything to do with Song of Solomon?
Okay, now, so partially it can do with Song of Solomon, but they're not mirrored together. But in Isaiah, he's talking about Israel. As you go further down that scripture, he'll tell you who they are.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
All right, so the next word I would like us to understand is bring forth. You brought forth something, right? Hebrew is asah. to do, to make, to fashion, right? Is everyone with me so far? All right, we have the Greek. It also means to bring forth, to bear, or to produce fruit, i.e. seed. So when we think about this here, whatever you bring forth, it will let us know what type of fruit or seed you have, right? Is everyone with me so far? All right, so let's look at something really fast here. In the book of James or Yahuah, it says, be patient, therefore, brothers, until the coming of Ha'adon, or the master. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it until it receives the early and the latter rains. This is going to be very important in the future. So he tells who to be patient? Be patient. Therefore, brothers or brethren, until the coming of Ha'adon. See how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, being patient about it. So, who's to be patient? Okay, we need to be patient just as who else is patient? As he. He is patient, right? So he says, him like being patient about it until it receives. Now, you're going to see early rain and latter rain. We'll talk about what that means in the future. But my point is, be patient. Then it says, you also be patient, establish your heart, for the coming of Ha'adon, or the master, is at hand. How do you establish your heart? We're going to talk about that. Don't you worry. You don't have to answer it. We're just gonna say it's word, be this. I already got it. So we'll keep going. Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door. Who's the judge? He says, in Revelation 3:20 tells you, I stand at the, all right. Okay. So do not grumble. Wonder what that means. John 12:48, he that rejects me and receives not my words has one that judges him. The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. How many of us said we reject him? No one. Am I with you? Okay. So you see how these things are highlighted, because we might need to define what these words mean. Okay, great. 15:1 says, I am the true vine, and my Father is the farmer. Just as you read up earlier in James 5:7, he says, see how the farmer waits for the precious fruit. John 15:1 says, I am the true vine, meaning Mashiach, and my Father is the farmer. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he purges or prunes, right? He prunes it, and it may bring forth more fruit. How do you purge or prune something? You cut it? So you cut it, and it still brings more fruit? Okay. All right. Yep. It depends on how you prune. Sometimes you have to start over. All right. Verse 4 says, abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abides in the vine, no more can you, except you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit. For without me, you can do nothing. All right. So we're going to define some words here. So the first one, remember that word for grumble? Yeah. All right. So it says, the naso, to express oneself involuntary in the face of an undesirable circumstance. So you're in an undesirable circumstance, you start to grumble, right? Then it says, to groan, to sigh, to complain in an intense and excessive manner, to complain strongly. How do we do that? I mean, I know we don't do it, so I'm just trying to figure out, like, if someone can give us some examples of when they came across it in their lifetime. Huh? We got some grumblers? Oh, you got one? Okay. I mean, because I know we good fruits and we all good. I know we straight.
I would say to complain strongly means that not reasoning with each other.
Okay. Not reasoning. Okay. So there's a thing where you're trying to reason with one another, But this reasoning, if there's no grumbling in it, then you guys can work things out. But if you're grumbling about it, there's a problem. All right? So he says, complain against one another, fellow believers, so that you will not be judged. All right? So keep that in mind. Now, again, if someone's wrong, there's nothing wrong with correction, right? Correction is correction. Now, the difference between correction is if you're correcting because of how you feel versus you say, listen, I'm correcting because the word says this. You're in violation of the word. So don't get mad at me. You can try to get mad at the word if you like, but it's just designed to correct you, right? All right. Keep going. Next one we have is reject, right? So it says, to set aside, to annul, to reject something as invalid, declare invalid, notify, to ignore. Now, in traditional Christendom, you know what the Messiah says, but then they'll bounce it off of what Paul says. And then when you start sharing them, every time you said, didn't the Messiah say this? Yeah, but that's why he was living. But when he died, he fulfilled it all. So now we go from fulfillment of it all over to Acts, Romans, Corinthians, Galatians, Colossians, Thessalonians. Everyone's with me, right? All right. But mind you, if his words will judge you in the last days, you cannot do what? Nullify it, make it invalid, ignore it. It's not possible to do that. You cannot do that. Is everyone with me so far? All right. We'll keep going. The next one is, he says, and just so you guys know where we're going. Right here. So we're at purge, okay? Think about purge. All right. The same word for purge is the word for prune, or pruning something. All right. So it says to cause something to become clean, to make clean, to remove what? Superficially growth from a plant, clear prune of a vine. Now, pruning creates growth and maturity. Something needs to be removed or cut off in order for you to grow. Right? So this purging and this pruning is going to take some time because we might still have some old ways, some old friends that might bring back the old memories of you.
You already answered my question.
Oh, you got some things that it's not like the Father that you still hold on to because they're okay friends or workers, co-workers, or even family members. People that have left the walk, but they were good to you. So you still, I would just want to check on them, see how they doing, right? What's wrong with that? And next thing you know, you guys start to communicate more and more. Next thing you know, some of their ways start to come on you. Now, let me share with you some ways, because some of you might say, oh, no, I don't do that. So let me show you some ways. I call a friend, old friend from school, high school. Hey, how you doing, man? Oh, I'm doing good, man. I remember back in the day. Right? Hey, what do you do now? Oh, I'm in the walk. I'm a Hebrew. I'm an Israelite. I'm a believer. Oh, really? How does that work? Oh, yeah, this, and that. Man, did you see old girl? Remember back in the day in school? Man, she used to have it. She's this way or she's that way, whatever she is. She could be big as a house, thin as a pan. My point is that next thing you know, you start talking about that person. You see how easily they can suck you into something? It comes right out just like that. Some things you just got to purge. You got to cleanse yourself. Okay? Anyone? Uh-huh. He's on his way.
Connected to what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I moved my desk. I wanted to move my desk.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to another spot. And in that spot, you have murmurs.
Mm-hmm.
You have steady traffic and everything. So it was like, it looked like everything was coming at me because I'm sitting there in the traffic of our room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I just wish I could go back where I was sitting because I was in the corner, quiet, everything. They didn't even know I was there half of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so the father said, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't tell you to move.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just keep in mind, there's a lot of pruning and purging that needs to take place. Sometimes when you thought you've been pruned and purged and you got it out, and you can legitimately got it out, somebody come back and bring it in.
Yep.
Here comes somebody reeling you in. So it's a fresh cut. Had that thing at 45-degree angle, right? That thing is going to grow, and as soon as you cut that thing's wide open. And you didn't tape it up, right? You didn't cover it. You let that thing open, and here comes somebody come slide in and mess you all up. Mm-hmm.
It's just like you'll cut a one plant and take another piece of another plant
Mm-hmm.
and put it into that plant after you cut it in that cut and tape it up.
Mm-hmm.
That little piece that you put in that plant will grow.
Mm-hmm.
That's just pretty much what Yahuah want us to do. Want us to be purged like that, similar like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like in horticulture, they call that sion technically. Sion is when you take something and you infuse it into and it regrows from that. Mm-hmm. You had something out?
Yeah, most definitely can. I would just read out these two scriptures. It would say Proverbs chapter 26, verse 4 and 5.
Mm-hmm.
It said, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. Verse
Mm-hmm.
5 says, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, we choose our own battles. So we already know the situation before we talk to somebody that had wild grapes or sour grapes or first fruit grapes. So
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as that if we speak to somebody, especially like from high school or family members or people that don't walk with us, we already know what we're dealing with before we talk to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just be careful who you link yourself up with. Just be honest with you. They may have good intentions, but if they don't have the Father's word in them, just prepare that you might have to do some purging because they can start to get you down a road that you may not like. All right. And the last one, it talks about abide. The word abide there is meno, which means to stay or to await, to stay still, to remain, to endure, right? So when you abide in him, he's saying you're enduring with him. Okay, that's what he means by abide, at least from the Greek's perspective. Okay? Sraki, I had something? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Doda. Okay, so I have like 7 girlfriends that I grew up with, right? And then maybe 2 times, 3 times a year, they all get together, whatever. We get together,
Mm-hmm.
talk, whatever.
Y'all get
So
together and talk about that word, huh?
No, they're not in the word. So that's my question because I've talked to them, I've shared with them your videos, different things,
Mm-hmm.
and so none of them have gravitated to them. A couple of them had some questions, but
Mm-hmm.
nobody has really gone out,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so my question is, as far as like, if there's like a get together or something like that where the girls get together, so you're saying that I shouldn't go or just be girded up because I do speak on Yahuah and things when I go and when I'm with them. And yes, they do speak of back in the day. They do bring it back in the day when we did this, when that. So should I just totally just not be a part of that or just be ready when it happens?
Okay, so if you say, hey, we can do this every year, and every year you tell them about the word, has anything changed in these years that you've been talking to them about it? You said no, right? They hear you. Have they changed? They say, I want to walk that walk. Now, if you do this every year, you could be on your 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th year saying the same thing, and then we start talking about the past. No, you've done your part. If you're saying I'm a light, and you want to be a light to whomever, your job is to be that light. But if they reject the light, if they don't want to abide in the light, why would you want to hang around someone that doesn't want to operate or walk in light?
Okay, so then, yeah, because I send in threads and all kind of stuff. So it's not just when we meet, I've sent it multiple ways to them. So, okay, totally.
All right, Daoud, you had something? This is Moreh Daoud, right? Moreh Daoud, you had something?
Yes. I just wanted to. Just wanted to
Repent.
say. Yeah, right. Whatever.
Oh, go
As
ahead.
soon
Go ahead.
as soon as you, yeah.
Okay.
We
Uh-huh.
we always look at it from just a secular perspective, but
Mhm.
we even got to watch out for that amongst one
The righteous.
another.
Yeah.
The righteous, and that's what we should be looking at first. Because pretty much, I mean, at this particular point in time, we already know where we're at, and what we coming out of, and what we're trying to gravitate to. So it's just like to make a long story short,
Hmm.
we should just be on guard all the time for any of this type of behavior,
Hmm.
and to correct it immediately.
Right. That's a good thing. Like I say, within our own people, you know, we should be able to correct one another. I'm not saying we can't have a good time. We should be able to have a good time amongst one another. You know, but my point is that when things start going a certain way, then you should bring that brother or sister to the side and talk to them. You had something out?
All right, so somebody from YouTube asking, let's say in this instance you stop listening to a brother's class because he stops believing in the Mashiach.
Uh-huh.
Even after correcting him, would it be bad to go back and talk with him on occasion?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, once so I'll kind of share it this way. You say, hey, the Mashiach is my bridegroom. Everyone agrees he's the bridegroom. I don't want your bridegroom. I don't like your husband. But I just want to hang out with him anyway. Now you think about that reality. Those that are married, if a brother says, man, I don't like your wife, do you think that brother want to hang out with that person? If vice versa, if the brother said, hey, I don't like just tells the sister, I don't like your ish, I don't like your husband at all, and he gets on my last nerves. Sis, do you want to hang out with that person? No. So you're welcome to correct that person. If they do not want the correction, then you keep it moving. Okay. Now, Amanda, you had something?
Ken Moreh, I have a Christian friend that
You
I've
do.
been Ken Moreh,
Mm-hmm.
and I talk to her once in a while, and
Mm-hmm.
I've often spoken to her about Hamashiach Yahusha, etc., etc. But
Mm-hmm.
she's, she's kind of, I don't know, I can't describe it, but basically she's not in the walk.
Okay.
I'm just kind of wondering if I should just completely cut her off completely,
Okay.
just disassociate myself with her completely, because I have been trying to, I've been a light. I've done everything I could, but
Okay.
it's
Well, if you've
been
done
hard.
everything you could,
Yeah.
if you've done all that you can do and stand, just stand. No. Okay. So once you've done everything that you said you do, now mind you, like you say, there's some humbleness that you can do, and you keep trying, you're pressing, but there is a point where they may not just want to hear it no more. I'm done. Stop. Well, if they don't want to hear it no more, that's when you stop. But when we come together, sure, we can talk about the word. We can ask about your day, how it was work, whatever it is. But at some point,
Mm-hmm.
you knowing that soul needs to be saved or protected, you got to be itching your way over to that conversation. And if you do that and it's not rejected, then maybe it's not their time to be called. Okay,
And
so my sheep will hear my voice.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
she doesn't reject it. She just keeps saying JC and God and LORD, even though I have educated her on what those words mean. She's
Okay.
just caught up in that Christianity.
Okay. So question is, so she like to keep the commandments in the Torah? Because I can,
Uh,
in other words, I can deal with a person that uses JC, LORD, but as long as they're steady striving to learn, they're trying to come out of a milk stage and they grown, then anyone should be able to work with somebody like that. But if you're saying
Ken.
no, she's just a Christian and she's not moving from there, but she's
Mhm.
a good person, then that's where you part ways.
Okay, Ken Moore.
Now I'm sorry if that's your only friend.
Oh no, she's not.
Oh,
I've just known her. I've known her for about
oh, okay.
our kids grew up together.
Oh, okay. No problem. Hallelujah. Yes, sir?
I'm kind of along the lines of with my parents. They are very much in a Christian church as well. And once I start speaking to them about the walk and I've maintained my position, they slowly started to distance themselves from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not have to adjust myself.
Mm-hmm.
They adjusted their self. So as far as them coming over, at one point I thought about just saying, okay, you know what, yeah, I can't come anymore. But if I'm going to be a light to them and continue to walk and show them who I am, then I allow them to be in my presence.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, as soon as they start talking about the past or Christianity, usually Caleb and I, somewhere, I usually let them talk now or I correct
Mm-hmm.
if it needs to be corrected.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I just wanted to kind of also, I have the same experience as a coach even with my own family.
Mm-hmm.
As you all know, when we first started coming here, my mother was coming here with us. And, I'm showing her in the scriptures everything, that Hamashiach is saying, everything that the Most High is saying, how, it's required that we continue to keep the commandments and so on. And she's in agreement, yeah, I can see that. And this is why everything is so messed up and so on and so forth. But then we would hear her sometimes in the room when she's talking to someone else, and she would say, oh, well, that's what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, my thing is like, okay.
You jump in there, oh, hypocrite.
Exactly. You understand? So, I mean, and now, it's got to the point where, hey, how you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Everything all right? Great. Love you. But it's very short and sweet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't entertain very long conversations with her or, anything of that nature, or even most of my family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of the one that is the black sheep, so to speak,
Mm-hmm. Well, you are
and
black.
the same, same as, Cody said,
Mm-hmm.
they pretty much, they shun me because they're like, okay, I know what his conversation is going to be about. I don't even want to, open that door with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, some of them just don't want to hear it. They're good. They'll shut it down. Okay. We'll keep going here. To establish the establish of your mind or your heart. Remember I said, how do you establish your heart or your mind, right? So Sirach says, let your mind be upon the ordinance, which if you read in the Hebrew there, it literally says reflect on the law of Elyon, and yes, it's with an aleph in the older verses, the ayin, Elyon, and meditate continually in his commandments. He shall establish your heart and give you wisdom at your own desire. But his delight, this is Psalms 1 and 2, so his delight is in the law, and in Yahuah, and in the law he meditate day and night. All right, so there is to get your heart established. Sometimes it has to be some type of meditation, right? What is meditation?
Your thoughts,
Yeah,
your mind and your heart.
Thinking deeply.
Okay. Meditation is your thought in your heart?
10.
Pondering
Yes.
on something, thinking
Okay.
deeply.
All right, so let's define meditation first, right? So the Hebrew word there is hagah, to utter, mutter, moan, meditate, study, reading, speak, to call, or cry out, to reflect, think, remember. Okay? So if he says, I meditate on his word day and night, what is he doing? Is he reading? Is he speaking? Is he crying out? Is he reflecting? Is he thinking about it? Is he remembering? He's doing everything. This is meditation, right? This is not you get a ball or some tuning fork and boom, and you say, and you feel the vibration, and that's you studying and meditating. Okay, we'll keep going.
Yourself out more. You don't empty yourself.
Uh-huh.
You don't empty your mind out. You don't think of any thoughts.
I couldn't hear you.
How they say meditation is to empty your mind.
Well, just depends on what they're emptying. So, if your mind is stayed on the Father in your meditation, you don't want to empty that. However, if there's some things that is ailing you, or there's some spirits, or there's some things you're trying to empty that out, sure. Who? Okay. Kanisha had a question?
No, I'm just. Is it just? I think of when I hear meditation. I think of Daud when he said, "May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart." That's why I said the thoughts. No, I'm just. Is it just? I think of when I hear meditation. I think of Daud when he.
Okay. You're right. So Dawood is sharing with you how he does it, though. So in other words, if I meditate day and night, and then he said, let the words of my mouth and meditation might be accepted by Yahuah, who my strength, my redeemer, or my rock and my redeemer, he's realistically sharing things that he already knows. It carries him. This is his meditation. So some people's meditation, for an example, is something you got to sit down and sometimes they got to sing. Some people do it differently. So you're singing, you're crying, you're shouting, you're giving him praise, right? And you do this, and then you might have a day where you're having a good day or a bad day, and you're just meditating on his word. It's just different levels of meditation. Okay. 1 Thessalonians 3:12 and 13 says, "And Yahuah make you to increase and abound in love one towards another and towards all men, even as we do towards you, to the end he may establish your hearts unblameable and set apartness before Yahuah, even our Father, at the coming of Adon Yahushua HaMashiach with all his saints." And I'll give a real brief one about saints. But again, "and may establish your heart unblameable." You got to understand how to get your heart or your mind in order. Okay? All right. Kepher Peter says, "Who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest or revealed in these last times for you, who by him do believe in Yahuah, that raised him up from the dead and gave him esteem or chabod, that your faith and hope might be in Yahuah. Little children, it is the last time, and as you have heard that the anti-Mashiach shall come, even now are there many anti-Mashiachs, whereby we know that it is the last time. Children, it is the last hour." This is an ESV version of the same verse. "Children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that the anti-Mashiach has come, so many anti-Mashiachs have come, therefore we know that it is the last hour." All right. What is the difference between last time or times and last hour or hours? Great. You had something?
I was just going to say, from my understanding, last times is that entire age. Last hour is kind of like the tail end of that age. You know, you're pretty much at the very end of this thing now.
Okay. Everyone agrees, Connor? Yeah? Everyone's good? You with him? Hallelujah. All right. Nothing. Just word of choice in English language. That's it. Absolutely nothing. However, I want us to consider the thoughts and the mindset of this time. All right? Don't you worry. It says, so we are living in these last hours as well. So again, the trick is it was the English language that's telling us this, right? That's why I'll give you an example of this is John in the King James, this is John in the ESV. It's their translation of that same Greek word. Okay? Yeah, I had to throw in a quick question really fast. All right, everyone's good. All right, so I'll give an example in Daniel. See, notice in Daniel, now if you look at Daniel, on this side, this is the Masoretic text, and on this side is the Old Greek. All right, same thing. Son of man, understand that the vision pertains to the time of the end, right? Anyone want to read it in Hebrew? I know y'all been studying. Anyone want to try it out? Le'et, good. Le'et, kates, hechazon, right? Hechazon. Anyway, so And on the right side, you see, Son of Man, understand, for yet until the hour of time. Okay, so one has to the time of the end, one has the hour of time. Okay, is the vision. 19 says, and he said, behold, I am going to let you know what will occur at the final period of indignation, for it pertains to the appointed time of the end. Well, Greek says, and it has said to them, behold, I am announcing to you what will occur at the end of the wrath of the sons of your people, for yet until the hours of time of the end it remains. And then 11:35, some of those who have insight will fall in order to refine, purge, and make them pure until the end time, okay, at Kates, because it is still to come an appointed time. Lamadyahu. So some of those, on the right side here on the Greek, it says some of those who have insight will understand in order to cleanse themselves and in order that they be selected out of, in order that they be cleansed at the time of the end. Then for the time is unto an hour. So when we start talking about times, hours, prophetic time periods, that's when we'll start getting into more of this here, okay? All right. The one to be revealed, his purpose. So, question, Mashiach, what's his purpose? Save the lost. Okay. Anyone else? You said they all need a mic? I wasn't sure what you said.
He came to renew the covenant.
Okay, he came to renew the covenant. What was the other thing? Huh?
To save the lost.
To save the lost. Oh, now they can hear you. Okay, you said you had something?
To redeem Israel.
To redeem Israel. Okay, anyone else had anything? Okay, great.
To judge.
Okay, to judge. Okay, he came to judge?
He's coming to judge.
Oh, coming, future, right? So the one to be revealed. So we know that he came not to judge, but at the end.
To judge.
All right, so 1 Enoch 48 verse 6 says, for this purpose he came, the chosen one. He was concealed in the presence of Yahuah spirits prior to the creation of the world and for eternity. And he has revealed the wisdom of Yahuah of spirits to righteous and the Chodesh ones, for he has preserved the portion of the righteous because they have hated and despised this world of oppression, together with all its ways of life and its habits in the name of Yahuah spirits. And because they will be saved in his name and in his good pleasures that they have life. Okay? 62 verse 7 says, for the Son of Man was concealed from the beginning, and the Most High One preserved him in the presence of his power. Then he revealed him to the Kodesh and the elect ones. For Ezra 12:32 says, this is the Mashiach, or the Messiah, whom El Elyon, or Most High, has kept until the end of days, who will arise from the posterity of Daud or David, and will come and speak to them. He will denounce them for their evilness and their wickedness, and will cast up before them the contentious dealings. 12:33 says, for the first he will set them living before his judgment seat, and when he has reproved them, then he will destroy them, the judge, right? 13:52 says, he said to me, just as no one can explore or know what is in the depths of the sea, so no one on earth can see my son or those who are with him except in the time of his day. Okay? So he was preserved because, like all of us are so curious, who is he? Where is he coming? You know, when is that time? Well, how's that happening? Right? So things are happening in the time that he has allotted, okay? Romans, and now that's in the other writings. So now I want to use the Brit Hadashah to say that this continued on even in the writings in the Brit Hadashah. Romans 16:25 through and 26 says, now to him who is able to strengthen you according to my Besorah, or the good news, and the preaching of Yahushua Mashiach, according to the revelation of the mysteries that was kept secret for long ages, but has now been disclosed and through the prophetic writings have been made known to all nations, according to the command of the eternal Yahuah, to bring about the obedience of faith. Okay, so he's doing it to bring about the obedience of faith. How do you do the obedience of faith? Faith comes by hearing the, okay, obedience of faith. All right, but we impart a secret and hidden wisdom of Yahuah, which Yahuah agreed before the ages of our esteem or honor. Now the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified Ha'adon of Chavod or esteem. So if they knew who he was, then they would not have done that, right? Meaning the people, not talking about the devil, right? Just keep that in mind. All right. These things Yahuah have revealed to us through the Spirit, for the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of Yahuah, even him, right? So the Spirit is going to be very necessary when we finally get into the final portions of this. It says, for who knows a person's thoughts except the spirit of that person, which is in him? So also no one comprehends the thoughts of Yahuah except the spirit of Yahuah. Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the spirit who is from Yahuah, that we might understand the things freely given us by Yahuah. And when impart this in words, not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Ruach, or the Spirit, interpreting spiritual truth to those who are spiritual. What do you mean, those who are spiritual? What makes you spiritual?
By walking in his right rulings.
Okay. Anyone else? That's it? Got to do it? Got an address? You sure do. Remember, the law is spiritual. See, that's what I'm saying. All you're doing is putting things together. This is how you, when you speak with others and you talk with others, find words that show them what this means, right? All right, so we'll keep going. Ephesians, he says, when you read this, you can perceive my insight into the mysteries of Mashiach, which was not made known to the sons of men in other generations, as it has now been revealed to his Chodesh apostles, prophets, by the Ruach, or by the Spirit. Verse 9 says, in it to bring to light for everyone what is the plan of the mystery hidden up for the ages in Yahuah, who created all things, so that through the assembly, the manifold wisdom of Yahuah might now be made known to the rulers and authorities in the Shamayim, or in the heavenly places. Colossians says, even the mystery which has been hid from ages and from generations, but now is made manifest to his saints. And of course, you know Revelations 14 about saints. It says, here are the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yahuah and the faith of Yahushua Mashiach. It takes both in order for this to take place. So the point of Yahushua Mashiach was to point us back to the Father, that we may walk in his word and have faith in his Son, that brings salvation to those that are obedient to the Father and his word. Okay? They don't separate, they're not different. Okay? Is everyone with me so far? All right. Sirach 18:20. So you know if they're highlighted, that means we got questions. All right, great. So before judgment, examine yourselves, and in the day of visitation, you shall find mercy. So before judgment, do what? Okay, are we examining ourselves? Oh, okay. Don't wait until that judgment day, 'cause it's too late. All right. Humble yourself before you be sick, and in the time of sins show repentance. Let nothing hinder you to pay your vow in due time, and differ not until death to be justified. Man, you got to do that. When? How long? Until death to be justified. Because why? Every word you say. All right. Before you pray, prepare yourself. How many of us just go out and pray? Hey, oh, Father, man, how you doing? Everything good? Yeah, I just want to take some time and just give you some praise. No, 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 no. You come into a most set-apart being. Set some time apart for him. Before you pray, prepare yourself, and be not as the one that tempts Yahuah. Think upon the wrath that shall be at the end, and the time of vengeance when he shall turn away his face. Revelations 3:9-10 says, Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Shaitan, or Satan, who says that they are Yehudim, or Yehuda, or Jews, and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. Okay? 10 says, this is very important. We'll talk about this later on. Because you have kept my word, what did it say? About patience and endurance. I will keep you from the hour of trial that is coming on the whole world to try those who dwell on the earth. So you see what I'm saying is, if you can do this, if you can humble yourself, examine yourself, keep his law, statutes, and commandments, do everything he says, and be patient about it, and endure, then it will be what? He said, from you, the hour of trial that cometh, you might be spared from that.
Question.
Okay.
How do you prepare yourself?
Okay. The way you said prepare for is, okay. So a couple of things. One is, when you're coming before the Father, you first need to start cleaning your mind out. You don't need to have a clutter. I'm like, tomorrow I got to do this at work. I got to, I got to do this. And I got to go cook and clean, and I got to see this person. Clean all of that out. Focus. Why are you coming to the Father? What is the point of you coming to the Father? Are you going to come to the Father? Think about you coming to his throne or his altar. Are you going to have all kinds of stuff in your mind when you come to his altar? Or are you going to come and humble yourself, think about him, what your request is, or what praise you want to give him? It's about him, what he can do. You don't need a whole bunch of other stuff in your mind when you come to him like that. Okay? As soon as Gadar get off the phone, you want him to get the phone? Okay, no problem. Take your time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool.
Yes, I just wanted to just share a little bit as to how we do it at home. If we want to spend time with the Father, we make sure we shower up, make sure we're clean on the outside as well as on the inside, and we anoint ourselves with oil, and we get in our prayer room or in our prayer closet, and we cover with the prayer shawl, and we just, spend time with the Father. When I do it, I don't want to just come and ask him for anything. I just want to tell him, thank you for just loving me just because you're just an awesome Father, and just that's about it. Just spend time with him and thank him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you want to know more, we have that lesson, How Should We Pray? Was that years ago, wasn't it? Yeah, there's a whole series on how should you pray. For those that want to do that, I'm not saying it's a command that you gotta wash your hands and your feet, but you'll see that they did do these things when they came before the Most High. Okay. All right, defining words. So a couple of things. One is the word for, you're seeking or inquiring after something, or you want to know something. The word is drosh, to seek with care, to inquire, to search out. As often cognate is the word to know something. Okay, the word bachan is to examine, to try, to test, to prove. Now, these definitions I'm using here is about the part about testing, because we're about to get into how do you test yourself, right? So the word for test. These are the two main words you'll see. And then you have another word, which is the word anah, that most of you guys are familiar with. To submit oneself, right? To afflict, that's the same word for atonement, okay? To till the ground, to bring the earth into cultivation, that's an agricultural term. And then what is it? Homonimously to a root meaning to answer. Technically, the root of the word anah literally means to answer, right? So again, when we start getting into the Father's word and we're going through something, we're testing ourselves, we're trying to prove ourselves. First you're going to have is the Father's word. The next thing you're going to do is, I put the other picture on the picture next to it is balance. Sometimes we don't have balance. We come one way or we come another way. So, you need to balance your mind, your heart, your spirit when you come before the Most High. All right, so here we go. Know your adversary. For Elohim created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Nevertheless, listen to what it says. Through envy of the devil came death into the world. Okay, so through envy of the devil came death into the world. Okay, so now it says, and they that do hold of his side do find it. So if you want it, you can find it. If you want to do what the devil do, if you want that envy, you can find it. That's what brought death into this world. It's also going to bring death to you. Okay, is everyone with me so far? All right. 3:1 says, but the souls of the righteous are in the hands of Elohim, and there shall no torment touch them. Jubilee 120 says, O Yahuah, let your mercy be lifted up upon your people, and create for them an upright spirit. And do not let the spirit of Belial rule over them to accuse them before you and ensnare them from every path of righteousness, so that they might be destroyed from before your face. So I just put, stop making it easy for the enemy, because a lot of times we do that. We allow these snares to trip us up, and then next you know, we steady falling, right? Catch yourself. Zechariah 3:1 says, then he showed me Yahushua the high priest standing before the Moloch of Yahuah, and Shaitan standing at the right hand to accuse him. So we know there's an accuser. Rather it be in the spirit realm or even in the physical realm, there's an accuser trying to do something for you. And I heard a loud voice, Revelation 12:10. I heard a loud voice saying in Shamayim or in heaven, now it comes salvation and strength and the kingdom of our Yahuah and the power of Mashiach. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accuse them before our Yahuah day and night. So keep yourself together. Is what I'm saying. Know your adversary. Know who's always. You ever been around someone that's just always negative? I'm just saying. I know it's nobody here online, but do you guys know some people that's like that? Huh? Yeah, just always negative. It just never stops. You got good intentions now. They start off strong, they start off right, and it just steady goes to this negative way.
Like, come on. My daughter has a friend like that.
See? Now, go ahead. What you say?
Moreh, I'm gonna let this slide. I got that, Moreh. my daughter has a friend like that, and she calls her Debbie Downer. Because every time the child opens her mouth, it's horrible. And she said it drains her. She doesn't even talk to her anymore.
Oh yeah. Hopefully she let that go.
Oh yeah. She's not around her anymore, but.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I know we pressed for time, Aki, but you was a person that could talk smooth words like flattery could be an adversary too.
Yeah. Yeah, if they're just trying to flatter you with words to cause the stumbling, to move you away from whatever. You got pastors that can do that. You got counselors that can do that. You have friends that can do that. You have family members that can do that. You have people that challenge you. They become your adversary. Okay? All right. We must be tested. Why? We're almost done now. We must be tested. Why? Now, if you know that I put some of these things in here, you don't have to repeat it because there must be more to it than just what you see in these pictures. Okay? So, question, why must you be tested?
See if you'll be obedient.
Okay, see if you'll be obedient. Okay.
To show your maturity.
Purify your faith.
Mm-hmm.
Simply just to know if you're ready. I mean, who creates a product and puts it out there without testing it.
Okay.
You know, like I'm coming from a chef's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We never put anything on a plate until we taste test it to make sure it's what it's supposed to be.
Okay.
You know, that's just.
I've seen some chefs, their palate is different. No. Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
We're tested to see if we love the Father the way that we say we do.
Okay. All right. So let's look at some scriptures and some writings and see what we come up with. 1 John 3:4. Of course, we already know this part. Whosoever commits sin transgress also law, for sin is transgressions of the law. So we know what that is. This is going to be ideal. 1 John and Daniel go together. If you ever want to start putting some things together, John and Daniel really, really go together. But anyway, listen 12:7. I'm specifically holding on verse 10. It says, "And I heard the man clothed in linen, who was over the water of the river, and he lifted up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swore by him that lives forever, that it should be for a time of times and a half a time, when the dispersion is ended, that they shall know all these things. And I heard, but I understood not. And I said, O Adonai, what will be the end of these things? And he said, Go, Daniel, for the words are closed and sealed up to the time of the end. Many must be tested and thoroughly whitened. It's in the Hitpael pattern for the word labain, which means to purge oneself, to be purged, okay? And tried with fire and purified. But the transgressors shall transgress, and none of the transgressors shall understand, but the wise shall understand. Okay, so we must be tested. Everyone's with me so far? Okay. James 1:12 says, Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. So there's going to be sometimes you're going to go through some trials and some tribulations. Can you stand fast in those trials and tribulations? I know we all say yes now because some of us might be free of it right now, right? Okay, all right, no problem. Okay. It says, For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which Yahuah has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by Yahuah. For Yahuah cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. Now listen to verse 14. Now this is my question. That's why it's in blue. But every person is tempted when he is lured away and enticed by his own desire. How does that happen? No one's never read this. This is the just fresh off the press into your scriptures.
We've read it before.
Okay, but each person is tempted when he is lured away and enticed by his own desires.
You can entice yourself to many things. That is not of the Father.
Who is that? Oh. Okay, go ahead.
You can yourself make your own self be tempted of things that you know in effect that you shouldn't do, but you talk yourself into it.
Okay. All right. So I want you to think about this. Each person is tempted when he or she, if you will, is lured away. Now, what can lure you away is the first question you should have in your mind, and then enticed by his own desire.
I think it goes back to what was spoken about earlier in the lesson, your own lust. You know, the things that you lust after. That's what's luring you away. You know, that's what's turning your eye. That's what's keeping your focus away from him.
Right.
You know.
You can have men, you can have women that can lure you away, right, from the Most High, and then entice you by what? Now it becomes by his own desire. Now you start taking over. You've already been led away, so now you're opened yourself up to whatever you think it should be like or how it's supposed to be. Is everyone with me so far?
Moreh, also cares of this world can lure you away.
Yeah, if that's your desire. Okay. It says then, okay. It says, and then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. That's what we read before. Yes, your own. Moreh, yes, your own had something?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. When our desires that lure us away, that's the thing that actually happens a lot to us. We want something so bad, we'll convince ourselves that it's the Most High that's giving it to us. If He didn't want me to have it, why did He let me come? Why did He let it come in my lap? I prayed, Father, if this is you, then let this come through. When it's really all me.
Mm-hmm.
So
So we co-sign the Father's name on things. Oh, Yah told me again. This is what Yah said. Yah wouldn't give this to me if it wasn't good for me. Yes, Yah, you are good. Thank you. You had something? As soon as he get finished his coffee or tea, he'll be on his way. He'll be on his way to you.
When y'all do that, I forget what I'm getting ready to say.
Oh.
Say what you just said again.
He says. Oh, okay. No,
Yeah,
basically, okay. So I'm saying is we co-sign the Father's name on things. Oh, thank you, Yah. You gave that to me. We always co-sign His name on things because it could be something that we wanted, or it could be something that you have. Some people become. I'm not gonna say super spiritual, but that's kind of how they act. You know what I mean? So everything is. Oh, that was Yah. Oh, that was Yah right there. Yes, Yah. Did you feel Yah? He told me that's him right there.
And then it's like, you can look at it this way. Even if He does allow that, it's not for the purpose that you thought that it would be. It would be Him trying to teach you a lesson.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And sometimes Yah can give it to you and let you know what your blessing is going to be, and you can beat that blessing up, or you can take it out of its season. Who's that? Josh? Okay, Josh, you had a question?
Yeah, I got a quick question. So with my experience with it, my daughter, she plays volleyball. So she plays volleyball and she got chosen to play on the national team.
Mm-hmm.
But they play on the Shabbat. How does it, is that from the Father, or is that something that should deny?
Well, Yah's not really into games, so I couldn't tell you if that was Yah or not for that portion. But question probably for you is, when you say she does it on Shabbat, you talking about Yom Shabbat, or you talking about on a different day?
No, yeah. Well, before we got I started listening to you, we were doing the regular Saturday Shabbat.
Okay, is she good now, though?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. Now, I mean, we don't do nothing at all. But beforehand, I still had this question because I would pray to the Father and say, "Is this from you, Father?" Because I was always struggling with it. I was like,
okay,
if it's from you, why is it on your Shabbat day? I didn't want to do it on your Shabbat day.
Yeah. Well, here's a litmus test for you. Yah's not gonna have you violate His own law.
Right.
So if you say, for an example, if it is of Yah, then He can open the door. Let's just say, let me go with it and say, this could be of Yah. Well, then, let's just say your daughter, she can go to the person and say, listen, this is my Shabbat day. I don't do anything. I don't find my own ways, my own pleasures on this day, but I really believe that He brought me over here because I'm really good at the sport. They could say, okay, sure. When the sun goes down, can she jump in it now? Sure. And He said, okay, we can work that out. She could be a light to them, if it's of the Father. But if none of that is allowed, then you got to say, okay, well, maybe that's not the Father.
Hallelujah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Targum Jonathan, Deuteronomy 8:2 says, and you shall remember all the way that Yahuah your Elohim has led you, so as to afflict you and to test you to know if you will keep His commandments or not. Okay? These tests are going to be very crucial because He wants to see what's inside you. All right, 1 Enoch 108 verse 9 says, who from the time of their very being have not longed after earthly food, and who regarded themselves as a mere passing breath, and they have observed this matter, Yahuah having put them through much testing, Then he received their pure spirit so that they should bless his name. Okay? So that's a good thing. Second Enoch 45:3 says, does Yahuwah demand bread or lamps or sheep or oxen or any kind of sacrifice at all? That is nothing, but he, Elohim, demands pure hearts. And by means of all those things, he tests people's hearts. Right? For Ezra 16:7-3 says, then the tested quality of my chosen people shall be manifest as gold that is tested by fire. Psalm says, or pseudo-psalms, here says, Songs of Solomon, technically, when a person is tried by his morality, your testing is in his flesh and in the difficulty of poverty. If the righteous endures all these things, he will receive mercy from Yahuwah. Now, think about what he's saying here. When a person is tried by his mortality, right? His mortality. Your testing is definitely where? It's definitely in your flesh. The mortality portion of it is in your flesh. Okay? But, you know, if you can overcome it, you will receive mercy from Yahuwah. 1 John 4:1 says, beloved, believe not every spirit, but try the spirits, whether they are of Yahuwah, because many false prophets are going out into the world. Hereby know you the spirit of Yahuwah. Every spirit that confesses that Yahushua Mashiach is come in the flesh is of Yahuwah. And every spirit that confesses not that Yahushua Mashiach is come into the flesh is not of Yahuwah. And these is the spirit of anti-Mashiach, whereof you have heard that it should come, and even now already is it in the world. He says, you are of Yahuwah, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. They are of the world, therefore speak they of the world, and the world hears them. We are of Yahuwah. He that knows Yahuwah hears us. He that is not of Yahuwah hears not us. Hereby know we the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. Okay? Everyone's with us so far? All right. So the Septuagint or the LXX tradition equates the prophecy of lawless ones doing lawlessness with sinners sinning. Just as 1 John 3:4 equates those doing the sin with those doing the lawlessness, this is unique in all the Greek literature of the Tanakh, early Hebrew writings, and early believers. I started to put all of it together, but we will be here for another week or so. So 2 Thessalonians 2:3 says, let no one deceive you in any way, for that day will not come unless the rebellion comes first. So there is a rebellion coming, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction. For the mystery of lawlessness, this is verse 7, is already at work. Only he who now restrains it will do so until he is out of the way. And then the lawless one will be revealed, whom Adonai Yahushua will kill with the breath of his mouth and bring to nothing by the appearance of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Shaitan with all power and false signs and wonders. Okay, these are things you guys are already familiar with. And last slide says, for the ships, and if you look at the word ships, it's the word sea, and it means ship in this translation, but it's also translated as wild beasts, desert dwellers. Okay, so this will be a nice, good study to understand about these ships. Is these ships literally meaning a ship as in which you're sailing on, or are these ships dealing with types of beasts and desert dwellers? Specific of Kittim or Rome shall come against him. Therefore, he shall be grieved and return and have indignation. The word indignation in Hebrew there is azam. It says anger, to denounce. So to think about this person. This person is going to have indignation against the Chodesh covenant, against the set-apart covenant. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence, Now, the word there is being, which means to consider or to perceive, to be prudent, regard or between, with them that forsake the Chodesh covenant. So you can imagine these ships, if you will, that's going to have, or these dwellers, these desert dwellers, and they're considered beasts, if you will, of Kittim or Rome. They're going to come. They're going to grieve. They're going to have indignation against those that believe in that covenant. And then after that, what's going to happen is they're going to have you consider things about that covenant. You're going to start trying to figure out things between, you're going to start wavering a little bit in it. That's what they're after. Okay? It says regarding, it says when they forsake now what can happen is with them that forsake the Kodesh covenant. So if you're for the covenant, you ain't got to worry about this. But those that are still on the fence or on the line with it, there's a possibility that when they come, they can push you down the other way or the other path. All right. And arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary of strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that makes desolation. Everyone know about what happened in the Maccabees, abomination of desolation. He shall seduce and flatter those with violence and covenant, but the people who know their Elohim shall stand firm and take action. Now, conclusion is this. This lesson, and remember, I'm kind of summarizing everything together here. I said, but this lesson was primarily to help you search yourself. What is driving you? Take control of your heart or your mind. Stop allowing the enemy, who or whatever that is, to control your thoughts. When he comes, he will be looking for those that has an upright heart, those that have tested their heart and mind and compared their actions to his word. They will not be wild grapes. They have humbled and examined themselves. They do not operate in lawless behavior. Okay? All right. Any questions?
Yeah. Someone had a question on YouTube. Going back to how would they handle, continuing to speak with someone versus not speaking with them if they're in the truth. So someone's asking, how about when it's your spouse? Is it in Torah to divorce your spouse if he, knowing the Torah of Yahuah and have walked in the truth and then chooses to completely go against Torah? What should they do?
Okay, so when we think about what's in the Torah, Torah was designed, remember, the covenant was designed for those that agreed to the covenant. So, whereas I think this individual now is talking about what's happening now, right? So back in the day, all of them was at that Mount Sinai, and he said, all that he said, we would do. So that puts them all in a covenant. So if they violated that, then they would technically be removed, or there'd be some type of chastisement and things like that. Now, today, if you're saying, hey, I got a spouse that's an unbeliever, and if you believe in what Corinthians says, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, where it talks about dealing with the believer versus the unbeliever, right? Now, mind you, he's giving you his thoughts on it as to hopefully by the way you walk will cause that unbeliever to change and come on board. That's the objective. However, if they just can't, then it says you're called to be at peace. Ezra chapter 10 talks about the strange woman, right? So if they're strange, then obviously there's something, they put them away. You have Deuteronomy chapter 24, talks about finding something unclean. But primarily that was dealing with because of the hardness of their hearts. That's why Moses gave that. So my point simply is that if the unbeliever is not causing any hindrance to that person, and maybe the way that they're operating their life is prayerfully is going to help them come around. If they're stating, no, this person's causing me problems, pain, headaches, it can be anything that it is, then you got to go and say, hey, we're going to have to depart. All right, anyone else?
Well, I have a question. We've spoken about, my daughter before and everything. So my question.
You see your daughter?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
My question is for our, I guess, adult sons and daughters, or even sons and daughters that don't live under your own roof, that can understand the concepts, when do you, what do you say, shake the dust off your feet or whatever? When do you stop trying to get them to understand the truth? I mean, since there are our sons and daughters, do we just continue, you know, forever? I mean, how long would you do that with your children?
Okay, so you familiar with the prodigal son?
Okay.
You went on ahead, let him go. If you've tried everything, if you've done everything, and you're trying to help them from destruction, from death, for trying to protect their soul, at some point, if they don't want it, you can't force it on them. Then you have to let them go. And then hope that what you have given them or what you have said, that in their time of troubles or distress, that it comes back to their mind, and then they'll come back and want to talk about it. But you can't do it forever. Once they become as you would say, an adult, that's it. You know, but prior to that, even if for those that maybe they have adult children that they came into the walk later, let's just say, you know, they're already gone. And when they came into the faith, now they want to go share with their children. There's nothing wrong with, like I said, keep trying to share the Father's word with them. It's when they don't want to hear it anymore. You know, that's when things start to stop. You're still going to be a parent. However you slice this, you're still going to be a parent to them. You still want to share with them the word and keep them going. But when you start hearing things like, stop, I don't want to hear it. Enough, Dad. Or Mom, I don't want this. You know, I know he knows me. He knows my heart. He knows I love him. You got to stop. Now you're pushing them further away from the Most High at that point. So now you got to say, okay, well, then I have to let the Most High deal with it at this point.
Okay, totally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anyone else? All right. Well, that's it. We'll stand up and close.